9:25. Ready to go live.
Okay.
You're all set, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Okay, we apologize. We're starting the work session a little bit late, but we're ready to get going.
All right, so Tim, thanks for joining us this morning. Maybe look like an update on Center Park Estates, Melrose, and Paradise.
Yes, and I can do this rather quickly. I'll give you the updates, and if you have questions or you need anything further, please feel free to ask.
Okay.
Center Park Estates, we have already given some preliminary information to Environmental Design Group. They are located in Akron. Mr. Gills and I put together a short summary of what has been done, what we were looking to try to scale back and kind of centralize the project basically from the fairgrounds to the top pond and only that little bit of area, and just kind of see if there's some way we can maybe provide for some underground detention or improve the top pond for some more capacity, but without getting into a full-blown project that we were looking at before, basically because of the cost associated with that, the easements that are required, and so on and so forth. So we did send that out to Environmental Design Group. I know that Mr. Gills and I are trying to coordinate an on-site meeting with them. That has not yet materialized. We were looking for perhaps doing it this week because Bill Thompson is going to be on vacation next week. But it is looking more and more like it will probably be the following week, which would be the first week of May. But we are proceeding with that, and it is moving forward. Once we get that on-site meeting with Environmental Design Group and they are able to issue us a proposal, then we will enter into a contract with them and be ready to go. If with the caveat of if that is even going to be possible. We kind of talked about this briefly, that this is something that we're looking into, but we're not even sure if it's going to be able to be accomplished, and that's part of the reason we just want to get another set of eyes on it. So that's where we're at with that. I'll jump to Paradise and then jump back to Melrose. Paradise, at the commissioners meeting last Thursday, they did sign off on amending the contract with Hall and Associates. Hall and Associates has been made aware of that, and Bob Parker had indicated by email that they had previously started some preliminary work to get those plans and specs ready so that we can get out to bid. I don't anticipate that to go out to bid maybe another 4 to 6 weeks for them to complete that, and then we'll be ready to go out to bid. And generally speaking, once you go out to bid, it's usually 30 to 60 days to be under a contract. If we try to expedite it, we can probably get it done in 30, but a lot of it depends on commissioners' meeting schedules, getting the contract signed by the contractor, et cetera. So, but suffice it to say, that is the consultant is working on completing those plans and specifications. And regarding Melrose, me and my team have kicked around the idea of keeping a bridge there. We don't think that that's going to be a significant issue. We do want to consult with our prosecutor's office and make sure that that's good, and then also consult with Hall and Associates to see if they can add that into their contract to look at what a different or what might be able to occur to put a bridge back there. One of the things that me and my guys talked about is maybe, this would be up to the township as well, but maybe we provide a 4 foot wide footbridge with rails on both sides, and then leave any cosmetic or aesthetic modifications to the landowner. Provide them access to the property, but not build a covered bridge type of thing. So we're still kind of kicking that around to see what might make sense and what would be cost effective. and kind of see where we go with that. So once we have some kind of a sense of direction on our end, we will regroup with the township and see if that meets with your goals as well.
All right. Thank you, Tim. I had a couple questions or comments. So on Center Park Estates, just to be clear from my understanding and anybody else listening, right, the idea of doing a smaller scaled back project is to avoid the difficulties with easements. It's not necessarily a cost of the project or funding issue. At least I don't know that we've talked about that.
Delays with all that.
But it's the delays associated with the easements.
Yes, easements are going to be a challenge out there for sure.
Okay.
I think we're already aware of that.
Yeah, so that was, we wanted to get some sort of relief in place as soon as we could and avoid those easements, which would really delay the
But
project
you're still going to have easements on
years
this
and
one,
years.
right? Tim?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So my question is, I mean, there's still potentially easement issues with this one. We just haven't encountered them yet. Could that be a fair statement or not?
Well, yes and no. There are some easements that have already been obtained through that section. So, and there is one particular property that the intent was for, and I'll call it the Tops Pond. The intent was that for that to be in an easement to the township. However, from what our records indicate is that it was signed by the township, signed by the previous property owners back in the mid to late 70s, but it was just never filed. So that one I don't anticipate being a problem. And then the piping system from what is that? Help me out through the street that is runs between the dentist or the eye doctor and the nursing home. I'm drawing a blank there.
Normandy.
I'm sorry. Thank you. So the piping system from Normandy to the Tops Pond is already in an easement, and I believe the ditch line from Normandy over to the fairgrounds is also an easement, but I'm not entirely sure on that one. But that condo association obviously has been pushing for the project, so I don't see a huge issue obtaining an easement there if we don't have one.
Okay.
So a little more on this Center Park Estates, Tim. When you, I wasn't typing right away when you spoke. You said this is looking at from fairgrounds to the Tops Pond area only. Is that a correct statement?
That's what we are. That's what we're anticipating or hoping for. But again, it's going to take the engineer to run those hydraulic numbers and see if that is going to be possible. That's something that we kind of just kicked around, Mr. Gills, myself, Stephen in our office, and said, boy, what if we can just do something in this area to get some relief through that section without, building a retention pond on the fairgrounds property, as well as, upsizing the pipe through the property to the west, boring underneath Route 20 and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's a thought. We're gonna see if the consultant can come up with an idea that might work through that section, and see where that leads us.
So the one clarification on my end with what you just said was, did you say you're looking at a potential pond or basin on the fairgrounds property back in those woods, or was that not something you're looking at?
That's not something we're looking at as of right now.
Why? Can I ask why?
Well, again, we're trying to scale back the project, and we're hopeful that by increasing the size of the pond and dredging out the pond at the Tops location, that may provide us enough relief through the area between Normandy and the Tops Pond, that may serve the purposes that we're looking at.
All right. So,
but again, this is all up. This is what we're anticipating, but we won't know until we have the engineer take a look at it and run the numbers.
All right, so I'm just going to throw my 2 cents, and I'm sure no expert, but based on my experience dwarfs what you have, so please forgive my ignorance. I'm just thinking, if the water is coming into Normandy and it's causing issues there, and then it's causing issues over in that nursing home area, if we're able to hold the water back before it gets there and allow it to drain out at a more reasonable rate, I can't help but think that would be a big positive. So the basin on the fairgrounds to me just sounds like, with all the water coming off of Cherry, what's that?
Hill.
Cherry Hill. It just sounds like that would just make so much sense to put a basin on there to hold that water back, and then if we can do the rest, great. But I'm just speaking out of ignorance here, and not any professional, but based on what I've seen affecting Lake Erie Shores, the same sort of logic seems to apply here. So for whatever that's worth, Tim.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong, Chuck, and that may be something that, once this consultant that we are anticipating getting under contract with, once they run their numbers, that might make the most sense. It's just, what we are saying to the consultant is, this is our area of concern. How can we best address it?
Okay, so all right, so I made my 2 cents there. I'm sure not opposing that if that option comes up. You're going to get support from me. The next thing you did on Paradise Road, or what is that road?
Yeah.
Okay. So on Paradise, I was looking at a time frame. You said 4 weeks to go out for bids, then 30 to 60 days after the bids are accepted. Is that to begin work? So we're kind of looking at later this summer. That should be either coming to completion if everything goes on schedule. Is that a fair statement?
I think that's a fair statement. Yeah. Typically speaking, if we can get the plans completed and out to bid in 4 to 6 weeks, which I think is a reasonable expectation. Typically, so if that's when we get the plans completed, we go out to bid. I think by statute we have to be out for bid for a minimum of 2 consecutive Fridays, because we have to advertise for 2 consecutive Fridays in a row. And then the commissioners' meeting schedule is we always open bids on a Wednesday. So we would be 2.5 weeks out to get the bids opened. And then typically speaking, it's 30 to 60 days to get under contract. And that's getting all the forms signed by the contractor, by our legal counsel, getting them up to the commissioners for them to pass a resolution to actually enter into a contract. So, if we expedite, we can probably get it in 30 days, but typically speaking, we're 30 to 60 to get under contract.
So
and then from there,
July, August.
that will depend on the contractor's schedule.
How long does a job like that take to fix?
A month, probably.
So we're looking at we're looking at into September before this thing's completed at the earliest. Reasonable time frame. All right, so let me ask one more question then on Melrose. Make sure
Yeah.
I got you good. You says you guys are looking at putting a walking bridge, and then with railings, and then
Chuck, let me clarify. We haven't made any decisions on Melrose yet. We're talking internally about, since as you guys mentioned, that since the easement is to the county, we're talking internally of what challenges that may pose for the county in the future if we reinstall the bridge, if we put in a different type of bridge, as I mentioned, perhaps just a walking bridge and with rails on the side, and then leave it to the landowner to customize it, if you will. So we haven't made a decision. We're talking internally of what that might look like and what kind of challenges that may pose for the county and the township in the future if we ever have any other issues along Barton Ditch at this location, or what kind of responsibility and liability we would run into if we put the bridge or a bridge back in place. So, as of now, that bridge is in the county easement, which is, we all acknowledge that. However, the county, nor the township, put that bridge into the easement. That was existing when the easement was granted to the county, so it was kind of grandfathered in. And I don't know what kind of discussions were had with the landowner when he granted the easement to us, But what we are trying to make sure that we are aware of is if we put it back, or the township puts it back, or puts in another bridge, what kind of challenges that may pose for us in the future. So we don't want to make any decisions until we look at all of those angles.
And that was a concern we kind of kicked around at our last meeting, that we don't want to put back a bridge and then be responsible for that bridge forever.
Correct. Yeah, we don't want to be responsible for maintaining it. I can't see it personally. I can't really see a scenario where we would build a customized covered bridge. I could see us providing access from one side of the property to the other, but leaving it at that. You know, any kind of aesthetic features we would leave to the landowner. That's kind of the direction I'm leaning. But I'm going to confer with our prosecutor, and then once we have an opinion, we will obviously present that opinion to the township to see what your opinions are on it as well. So I would encourage you guys to continue to have a discussion and come up with ideas that you think might work as well. You know, concurrently while we're doing our due diligence also.
All right. Thanks, Tim.
I got one more thing.
Gabe, do you have any
Different
questions?
subject.
I don't have any questions. Chuck has a question.
So I'm just this just has to do with, and I know we've spoken about this in the past, Tim, but we're actually talking to the developer at 10 o'clock. So with McKinley Creek coming in through the brooks, I know we've kind of prodded everybody, stormwater, the county. We're all aware of the flooding issues that have taken place there over the years. The regional basin that we're doing is going to have a minimal effect on that area, really not much. So with this developer coming in and wanting to put in more homes and all of that, there's a pre-existing flooding issue, which is almost identical to the sort of issue we had at the other end of Lake Erie Shores coming in and affecting the pines. So when this thing goes forward, and I haven't really approached this with Joss and Gabe too much, but I want to make sure that that's part of the plan and part of the thought process to help this guy with developing, but also helping our residents to fix a pre-existing issue.
Okay, yeah, I'm glad I'm glad you made me aware of that. Obviously, I was not aware of a developer coming into that area. I know that we normally get from Dave Radacci from Planning and Community Development. When a developer comes in, they submit preliminary plans, and so I will make sure I mention to Steve that we take a look at that when those preliminary plans come in, and we try to address it early on in the process so it doesn't come up at the last minute. You know, so we don't spring something on a developer that he's not aware of.
All right, he's going to join us at 10 o'clock. If you wanted to listen in and pipe in, you're welcome at that point. If you're not able, we understand. But yeah, so it's he's aware of the issue. He knows about it. Everybody knows about it. And there is retention basin as required per the developer to do something. Personally, I'm looking at fixing a bigger issue and making it bigger. That's my driving point to fix this, because the water's flowing in there and you can't stop it because of where it's coming from. But we need to do something to hold it back and address it. That's my position.
Can we require him to?
You can't make him pay for it, so it's going to have to come out of stormwater, to be honest with you. I mean, that's how it's going to have to happen, just like the other one did.
That's the issue. Well, I guess that's more discussion. But
That's discussion we got to have.
So that regional pond isn't going to address any of this?
Well, minimal, because what happened, so real quick, when they had the big storm in 2006, 9, 11, and 13, water came, mostly 6 and 11, the water came down the railroad tracks and it started going into those off of Pebble Beach, but it also flowed all the way down into McKinley Creek. So it came through that creek. I think it came down. I don't have proof of that. But so when we say it's going to fix the regional basin is for that, it's going to have a minimal effect because I don't know how much water truly flowed that far before it came across.
Okay.
So, all right, Tim, you got anything to add on that?
No, we'll take a look at it, Chuck, when it comes in, and you know, obviously you're going to have a conversation with the developer. I will probably stay out of that at this point because I don't have any graphics or any drawings or you know, any way to kind of visualize the locations you would be talking about. But I will certainly, you know, make sure that my guy, Steven, who does our review, is aware of it, and we will work with the engineer to make sure that that basin is sized appropriately. If there's something that needs to be done that's over and above what that developer is responsible for, we will have to have a conversation between stormwater and the trustees to see what that might look like and how much funding may be required and what kind of agreement we might have to make with the developer, because obviously there would be some design costs involved, there will be construction costs involved, and for not for nothing, there may be land costs involved depending on how much area we're talking. So, I think it's prudent for you to make the developer aware that there may be some other requirements. But until we, work with their engineer to see, again, what the design calculations show, we really won't have any idea of what that might look like until the engineer is able to run those calculations and run his design information.
All right, thank you. So I'll add, Mike has pictures available for the Brooks property and for Lake Erie Shores during different storms. One from Lake Erie Shores is only 2006, but it's happened multiple times. The one from the Brooks, I think, was either 2011 or 2013, one or the other. But it's not an every time thing, but it's when those big storms come in, this is what happens. So if you ever want to see those, Mike has them. Thank you very much, Tim.
Oh, okay, sure. You're welcome, Chuck. Thank you. Yeah, Mike, if you have those, or if they are able to be emailed, if you can scan them and email them, or if you have them electronically, shoot them on over to us, and we'll start our preliminary discussions as well, and see where that might lead us.
I have them electronically, Tim. I'll send them to you this afternoon.
Okay, that sounds great. I appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Tim. Any other questions for Tim? All right, no other questions, Tim. So thank you, and appreciate the time.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I just wanted to mention too that I think that I'm just saying it out loud. I think the Fairway Pines tree clearing went extremely well. My guys were very, very satisfied with the way the contractor performed the work, and they have been out there on a couple of different occasions to make sure that the area is stabilized and in compliance with the EPA requirements for that type of activity. So, I think that went very well, and I was very pleased with the way that whole situation transpired.
Tim, yes, I agree 100%. And Nick and Steve were very involved in this and very helpful. They really helped us out a lot. All deadlines were met. We're in good shape. We're on to the next phase.
Perfect.
So on to that next phase. Chuck just walked out of the room. I'm sure he'd ask the question too if I didn't. Where is EnviroScience at, and is there any chance we're going to bid a project and start it this year?
To be honest with you, Josh, I don't know, because I know where EnviroScience is at. They have submitted their back in January. They submitted the preliminary plans to the Corps of Engineer. I know that Mr. Gills and I sent an email to Sheila, maybe 2 weeks ago, looking for an update, and she did not have an update from the Army Corps, but she did have the plans have been submitted to Mr. Gills and to our office for some preliminary review. So they're continuing on with the plan development, but we have not heard anything from the Corps as far as from the permitting requirement of it. But I do know that in part of our correspondence with Sheila, she was looking for comments back, from our office and Mr. Gill's office back to her, and then we are looking at doing whether it's a virtual meeting or some kind of a meeting here soon to go over those comments and see how close we are as far as the schedule and getting this thing going. So once I get a better update, I will let you know. I do know that we recently received, on a different note, same subject though, we did receive some correspondence from the Fairway Pines developers engineer about another phase that they are beginning to design, and they wanted to see preliminary plans for the regional basin, and Stephen has provided those to their engineer. So we are continuing to work lockstep with the Fairway Pines developers engineer regarding their basins they're building, the regional basin, and what that's going to look like. And so we're moving forward on it. But I think, we may have additional information within the next couple weeks after we have this meeting with Sheila from EnviroScience to go over the comments we have on the plans.
Okay, because that's something we'd really like to get going this year.
Of course, yes.
It's a high priority. And I guess coordinating with the developer, so the regional pond is not going to be used for any of their development stormwater controls, right? They're separate.
No, it is. It's going into it.
Well, they are and they're not, in the sense that they still have to do detention within their phases, but they're getting to the way I understand it, they are getting to a point with their phases where their outlets from their ponds will be discharging in the direction of the pond that we are going to build, if that makes sense.
Right, but they're building all their own detention.
They're doing their own, yes, they're
Okay.
doing their own retention or detention on within their phase, but where it's outletting to is going to be outletting into the areas that we will be doing work.
Not what I heard. Billy,
Okay.
I mean, did I asked that question when I was talking? Who's the guy we were with? That's Nick. Okay, Tim, I'm sorry. So, Bill took me up there and we walked it, and Nick was actually there that day. And so I asked that question, and my understanding of Nick's reply, and maybe Nick was incorrect or I misunderstood, but part of their drainage is going to go, of the next stage is going to go into that pond, is how I took him to say it. Is that,
I don't know if it's the next phase, but eventually, yes, their water has to go there.
there's going to be some of their water going in there, is how I understood it. I mean, I was hoping it wasn't the case, but I thought it was, so.
Well, the water may go
again,
there,
my understanding is they are going to build the ponds. They're going to build their own pond for retention or detention within their phase, but it will outlet into our pond.
Okay, and that's fine. If that was what we wanted originally, I didn't realize. I thought that got shot down due to some EPA requirement where you couldn't run pond to pond. But if that's not the case, then
No,
all the better.
that's not the way I understood it, Chuck. And one of the things that I recall early on, the developer had asked is if we built that pond, if we would size it to accept
except
water
there,
from their phase, so they would not have to build detention. And we kind of said we would look at that, but we weren't going to guarantee that whatsoever. And we've kind of taken the position now, in my opinion, or as I recall, that they will still be building detention within their phase, but they will be able to outlet into our pond or your pond.
we don't want to use taxpayer dollars to build infrastructure for a private developer.
The developer.
So, yeah.
Oh,
Correct.
absolutely. Okay. Well, hey, so Tim, if I could follow up with you offline, could you just look into that a little more and let me follow up on
Yes,
a separate phone call to you?
Yep, I'll follow up with Steve on that. I know that, like I said, that email from the developer's engineer came in last Thursday or Friday, I believe, that they were starting to work on phase 4 of Fairway Pines, and he was just looking for a little information from us, and Steve provided that. So I will follow up with Steve to make sure that that's the direction we're going, and we'll, I can get that information to Mike, and he can relay it to you, or you can give me a call in the next week or so, and I'll see if I have any additional information for you, Chuck.
All right. Thanks, Tim. Really appreciate all you do. And your team is awesome to work with, too. So thank you very much.
You bet. Thank you, and thanks for the kind words. I will make sure that they're aware of that.
Thanks, Tim. Have a good afternoon.
Okay, sounds good, guys. Anything else comes up, just shoot me an email or whatever.
Okay.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks.
All right, sounds good. Thanks.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
already reload these types of meetings, so it makes you.
Morning, Dave. Hey, George. George Davis? George and Mike.
So let's go ahead and roll right into.
Might as well roll.
You guys are a little bit early, but we're at
ready for you.
a stopping point, kind of. So yes, please.
Yeah, please speak to the microphone. You don't need your mask.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
So I think I'm actually here for two purposes. I don't know which one you want to talk about first. Maybe the simpler one first. Tanner's Farm.
Can you mic that or mute that, please?
Good.
Rich and I had
Yeah.
been talking about Tanner's Farm.
Hold on.
Hang on,
Hold on.
somebody's microwaving. Mute whoever's.
Can everybody online? Rich, can you hear George?
No, no.
Is that
Your mic, George. Press the
Yeah,
button.
he's not very clear.
There you go.
Oh, wait. Testing?
There you go. It's on now, I think.
That's better.
is it better? Okay.
Okay.
So
All right.
Tanner's Farm.
Yeah, so Rich and I have been chatting about that. I think everybody's familiar with that. It's an old condo project that Todd Harrison and Chad Pengel had been building back before 2008. And in 2008 or 2009, they got the PUD amended to go to detached condos, which obviously is more attractive. But then, the slowdown hit and nothing had gotten built. And so Todd Harrison is looking to sell that project, and I would like to buy it. The only issue we had is we needed to, I want to use a very popular home plan of mine, which is a 1,301 square foot ranch that I've built. It's what I built in Nautica. I built it a bunch in Perry, built it a bunch in Concord. So it's a good selling plan that folks like. We have 2 and 3 bedroom options, all 2 baths, basement, slab. Will fit nicely in there, but it's not the floor plan that was approved for the PUD. That was a cape, where 2 floors versus 1. And then the only change was, Dave, a couple of the units, the setback, the driveway length, we would like to go to 22 feet instead of 25 so that we don't go any closer than the rear setbacks. Those were the only 2 changes, but Rich noticed that there was a typo, and somewhere at some point it got typoed as 36 instead of 37 units. So am I correct, Rich, that you wanted to sort of address that here and see what we thought needed to happen?
Well, yeah, the original approval for that project was for 36 units, but in looking at all the drawings, the drawings indicated 37 units. And actually, I think the drawings indicated 38, and that was reduced by a proposal of the developer. Maybe in 2007 or 2009, there was an amendment to the original approval. I turned that paperwork over to Harley, so I don't have it in front of me right now. But my memory is pretty decent on that. So the expectation is that 37 units really have been approved for that project.
Okay, so it sounds like it's maybe just some sort of clerical thing we need to clear up, that it was approved at that 37.
Now, since these are PUDs, do we have to, can we amend these here? They don't have to go to, we can do that, right? Yeah, right? We can just do that here, since we approved that.
I believe so.
Rich, I think you told me that if it was minor, you could even approve it, but you just weren't comfortable because of the typo, right? Is that what you told me, or no?
Well, no, the typo I wanted to point out to everybody so that we all get on the same page. I believe that when the clerk, whoever typed up the result of that decision, I believe they typed in a 6 instead of an 8. It's the only thing that makes sense, because all the discussion that followed that and the amendments that followed that refer to numbers that are showing up as proposed. And the last the last drawing that was approved by the township, I believe, was from 2009. That was the last amendment, and the number of units, which were in total 15 units, had been built at that time, and there are 22 spots that are left to be built, making a total of 37. So that wasn't the big issue. The fact that we are changing the front setbacks. Um, I did not believe uh, that was a substantial modification. I believe that the test for going through a rezone and doing a full blown zoning commission public hearing followed by a trustee public hearing. Uh, I do not believe that your proposal meets the substantial modification definition in section 31 or 32 of our zoning resolution. However, there is a little bit of a question because we needed to clear up and verify that we're all on the same page as far as there being a clerical error on the documentation of the original approval for the number of total units. I believe that was 38.
I think there's enough.
The
I think there's enough
documentation
evidence
says
to,
36.
I think there's enough, like you said, evidence to prove that, show that that was a clerical error, not in the intended number based on the drawings alone. I think that's enough to.
Yeah, so if
And I just want to add, for clarification, the reason why we're here discussing this is because there are two ways that a modification can be approved to an FPUD, one of which is going through the entire process again. The requirements, the factors that would require a developer to go through that process again, including changes in the character of the site, an increase in density. Now, with the clerical error, there could be an argument that there was an increase in density. However, we feel comfortable that it was
Actually going the other
it
way.
was- Yes, that,
Right.
that this is what was approved. The density was approved previously. And then the change in the character with the setback changes and the changes to the units. It speaks to this, but Rich and myself feel comfortable based on what's provided that while they do speak to these specific factors that could require you guys to hear the whole thing all over again, we feel comfortable that we can approve this at administrative level. But before doing so, we wanted to bring these issues to your guys' attention and get your blessing before we
I'm
move.
fine.
So it sounds like we can move forward with clearing
Yeah.
it up with the administrative issues.
Yes.
And,
Yep,
and taking
I'm fine
care
with
of that.
everything.
Good.
Good.
Thank you. Thank you. We're excited to finish that up.
Yeah,
with
looks
the
gonna
market
be good.
today.
It's the same thing as Nautica, you said, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Those are very nice.
Yeah,
And they
so with
sold
the market-
quickly, too.
Yeah, and with the market today, they should sell really, really
I was
fast.
gonna say, now's the time, right?
Everybody's
Yeah.
looking for ranches, and
Yeah.
I mean they're
Ranches and small yards seem to
Yep.
be the.
Yep. So
As-
we're excited about that, and I'll thank you from Todd Harrison to the developer. So then on the other issue, so the 23 acres on Bacon Road that previously, well, I mean, I'm closing any day now as soon as the title work's done or the new survey, but the land that was previously owned by Ron Klein. I wanted to, chat with everybody here. I've heard a lot about water issues, and I actually was out there this morning with the landscaper that landscapes out there because I'm going to hire him to do some mowing there. And I don't know if this is the best thing to start with, but one of the things that's going on there is that creek is full of crap. It's full of branches and garbage and all that stuff. The issue there would be, Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, is whether or not, with the riparian, whether or not we can cut some trees down that are on those banks, because the trees are growing like diagonally out of the bank, and so when the water gets high, all the stuff gets clogged up and dams it up. So I'm not privy to the exact scope of your guys' riparian, but some cities' riparians say you can take stuff that's less than 10 inches or dead or whatever. But, you know, I would be willing to go in there immediately to clean those banks out, right? But I need to know what the riparian allows, right?
I think ours isn't very.
Riparian, ignorant here. Riparian in our thing just says how close you can build to it.
Setbacks, right?
Yeah, it's the setbacks. I don't think we have
Is that
much
your
to
knowledge
do
of
with,
Painesville Township?
I think ours is pretty.
just says you can't build
Vague,
within
yeah,
25
it's-
feet, I think it
Ours,
is, or something.
yeah, it addresses riparian setbacks versus
Work that you can
work
do in it.
inside the actual riparian.
Okay.
So,
So that's stormwater department guidance, and they always, when we've had, so I live in Lake Erie Shores, and when we have to maintain those creeks, stormwater came out, I remember the guy, and he worked with us, actually, it was, soil and water.
Yep.
So, they came out, and, what's his name, Dan Donaldson?
Donaldson.
Dan
Yeah.
came out and worked with us, walked the creeks, and then was pointing, you can do this, you can do this, so, yeah,
Okay.
So
take care of it.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I guess work with soil and
Yeah.
water.
So as soon as
And-
I take title, we will cut those trees that are into the river
and
shed.
then essentially dredge it out and to make it a clear
Yeah.
path is what you're, yeah.
Yeah,
by all
and then,
means.
and then and if I'm speaking out of turn, Dave, chime in, but Dave spoke with Steve Hauser, who succeeded George Haddon, and he went back through some of George's emails, and George was recommending a study on that creek to see what the 100-year floodplain was, so that, you know, to try to figure out where that's at height-wise, and, you know, make sure we don't build anywhere close to that, and this, that, and the other. So right, as soon as I take title, I'll commission that hydrology study to figure out what's going on with the creek. I do have a meeting scheduled with the HOA of the Brooks for, I think it's later this week,
Yeah. So they said.
to see what else they have. And I now know the president lives right on that creek, so that'll be helpful. But, you know, whatever I do over there, I do not intend to do anything to make the matters worse for the Brooks. And I think, you know, cleaning out that creek might actually be very helpful.
Well, not to give you a big head, but when we heard you were buying it, we were happy to hear it was you and not some other developers. So
Yeah,
we know
yeah.
we can kind
I'll
of
do a
count
good
on you
job.
to do the right then.
But what I wanted to sort of chat with folks about is, you know, the Brooks has run its course. The 14 years has expired. There actually was a document filed in 19 where it would not be expanded. And quite honestly, I would prefer to do single family there, fee simple single family rather than condominiums. So I just wanted to sort of take the trustees' temperature and see what your guys' vision for that is. You know I got to go back, I think, for an amendment, right? A PUD amendment on that one, or no?
I mean, we're basically gonna have to start the
Process over.
on this.
Right.
This, there are 26 acres, because it's a significant departure from the
You want to come
original.
up here?
Dave Novak, Barrington Consulting Group.
Who are you, sir? I don't think we've met before.
9114 Tyler Boulevard,
okay,
Metro,
okay.
Ohio. No, it would be my opinion, because all this was part of a PUD, that we would have to, and this would be a significant departure from the original development plan for this piece of property, that we'd have to go back through the process. But as George mentioned, you know, he wants to do fee simple lots, probably on public streets. When it comes to stormwater and those types of things, I believe the Brook started in 2004. Some of the rules and regulations have changed, so we would have to meet the current rules and regulations when it comes to stormwater, water quality, and all those things. Not really sure what kind of issues they had over at the current Brooks. I know that there's, again, some of the flooding, but and I could even give you guys a copy of an email that I received from Steve Hauser. But in essence, part of what he feels is going on over there, especially with the current Brooks, because I know that's an issue, and I think it's separate from what we're proposing to do on the property, is that there's a detention basin up in the upper north corner of the property. And what appears to happen when you have a heavy rain and the ditches down Bacon Road are not very large ditches, and the elevation of the pond, if the water overflows the banks of the ditch, it actually goes into the detention basin for the Brooks. So that pond cannot function as it was designed. One of the good things is, because about a third of that original piece of property was, has been developed, what, the remaining lands that are there, half of that property that George is looking to buy was intended to go into that pond. But we're not going to take our stormwater into the existing pond. So calculation-wise, it may look better, but I don't know if the people at the Brooks, if they've maintained that pond. I don't know what the capacity of the ditch. I believe on the east side of Bacon Road, there's a storm sewer that pond was supposed to outlet into. Again, in this email that I can give you a copy of, it talked about, there was some study that the county engineer was gonna do. There was some, I couldn't quite grasp whether it was putting in some type of a new storm sewer or fixing the old storm sewer down along Bacon Road, whether, and that was when George Haddon was still at the county. Whether any of those things have happened.
Can I pipe in here, Dave?
Sure.
Just to shed light on what I believe to be true. And I could be wrong. You're the engineer and you guys have the information. So my understanding was, and I know the Brooks has had the flooding, and so my understanding was the basin, you said it was meant for the whole further development. That's the first I've ever heard that said. If that's true, I'm not aware of that. But let me
Not
just,
the whole development.
okay, well, the future development is how I understood what you were saying there.
Here, let me just show you, and sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's fine, it's
I kinda
fine.
brought this color-coded drawing. Okay, so this area in pink is what's been developed,
Right.
okay? This area in yellow was intended to go to this pond.
Okay,
Okay, and then this area here was intended to go into a new pond.
okay.
So again, George is buying.
And that's from the original design, Dave, and everything? I mean, this was already set for that, so you're banking on that.
No, we're not gonna put this water into this pond. We're gonna develop our own basins for the green and the yellow,
Okay,
okay? So, what I'm trying to say is, in theory, is if this water was intended to go here, and I would make the assumption that this pond was sized to take this water into this pond. When we take this water out of here, doing the calculation should make this better, but if there's an issue along Bacon Road, because there's, it doesn't show it on this drawing, but this pond outlets into the ditch, and then there's.
my understanding, let me stop you there. My understanding is the Brooks raised that up with the county engineer a few years back, and this was closed off. Because the thought was this water was coming in here and it was flooding their thing.
Correct,
So
correct.
my understanding is they closed this off, so that no longer, and then what we worked with the county was to have this tied to the drain, and then it went down to Lake Road, and now it goes it goes down to that water treatment plant.
Okay, so there is an alternate outlet.
So, well, yeah, so the way this guy, as I understand it, this guy drains into the Nautica, Bill, or George, isn't that the case?
Yeah, there's
So this guy goes to Nautica, Nautica goes to Nautica, and then Nautica goes to the creek.
Well, is all I can tell you
But
is.
this was supposed to be the overflow. When this pond overflowed, it was supposed to go here.
The original.
It could be.
Yeah, and you obviously know more about the recent activities here, is all I could do is look at the old plans, and the old plans showed everything going out this way, so if things have changed.
Yeah, so the guy you're gonna talk to, the president lives right here.
Yep, yeah, that's
Great
what I
guy,
meant today, yeah.
Bill Anderson.
He'll know everything about the creek.
He knows everything. All those pictures I gave, Mike, if you've seen them, those all came from him in that whole area.
No,
Anyhow,
I haven't seen him yet.
okay, so like I said, my understanding is this was closed off, and then we worked with the county, because they had to run that pipe under the railroad tracks, and that delayed it further to get that pipe re-ran. So we were on a big hold for the railroad to say, okay, but then eventually it did get done, and that was a couple years ago now, Mike, to
At
sound
least
right?
two, maybe
So
three.
did that pond flood since then?
I don't think the pond is flooding anymore. Although we haven't had any big rains to really test it. The last big storm we had could have been 13 in that range, and, I mean, that thing did 6, 9, 11, and 13. It was, this whole area was underwater,
Yeah, I remember.
right? So,
When I was building Nautica, this
you
thing
saw it,
flooded
yeah,
too.
so you saw it, but anyhow, so that's
Because
that.
this creek would run right in there.
I'm gonna tell you, so one of the problems we have, and this is
Yeah.
my position with, and I'm saying mine, I can speak for myself, I'm sure we all have the same concern. So Bo Canez owns property over here next to Omega, and this creek comes like this, and it comes over here.
Yep.
When they built the Pines, and then, because we know about this, because they wanted to turn this into apartment area. Well, the Pines is also over here, this is Lanark, not Lanark,
Oh,
this is
no, you mean,
Kurtstone.
Sandston.
And Sandston and Kirstone, so, but that was part of the Pines, that was a late phase of the Pines.
So last phase.
So when this was built over here, their water, they built them a basin, which is on this vacant property that Bo Canez owns. And with that basin, it was, because there was no EPA at that point, there was no requirement for anybody to maintain it, so basically it all overgrew. So when Bo Canez came in here and wanted to develop this area around those condos, one of our sticking points was, okay, we gotta fix the drainage problem coming off, and then there was like, there's no legal requirement to make him do that. And then he never went through building. So anyhow, the problem we're having is that the water, just like the problem for Lake Erie Shores, the water was coming in from the other section of the Pines, and then off the golf course property and flooding Lake Erie Shores, it's also coming in here, so there's two things. So this water that's overflowing this creek is because nothing's holding it back. So from a township standpoint, I'm gonna speak for myself, what I wanna see, and I know you've got basin over here, what I wanna see.
Well, this is the Brooks plan. Mine's gonna be different. This is, when the Brooks was started here, this is what they
Okay.
portrayed. This is showing more condos. Mine's gonna be single family.
I wanna,
It'll be a
I
different
think
plan.
you're gonna find a lot of support to help you do what you want and develop it. I personally I like single family, fee simple. I think we all do. So we wanna work with you on that. But what we're looking for, I'm speaking for myself again, is we gotta, I know it's not your fault this water's coming in unmitigated over here because of prior existing conditions, but we got a problem over here because of this. And the only way to fix it is to hold more back, just like we did with the regional basin we're doing. So that's my thought, and I'm
So
sure.
are you proposing a regional basin over here?
No,
then?
because we can't do nothing over there because we don't own this property.
Okay.
And this guy isn't looking to move this property, but you're looking to do what you want over here. So the only
Right.
option I really have, George, is to get you to do something and then work with you to give you what you want so you can
Yeah.
build single-family homes and make your life as easy as possible, understanding the problem we have with the creek. So I'm asking you to hold back more water than you're really required to.
Well, we can't hold the creek water back though, can we? Or no? We can
Typically,
hold our water here.
typically, it would be, the way we would do a design is we would not hold back any of the water in the creek. But when we do our calculations, if there's not a retention basin here or that's functioning properly, we would sure look at that coming through the property. And the reason we don't want to take that water and take it into our pond, I don't know what the watershed is up here, let's say it's 50 acres, okay? When it comes to water quality side, and this has nothing to do with you guys, it has to do with the Highway EPA, George then would have to design a pond for water quality that could handle the water quality volume for 50 acres or 100 acres, okay? And then his pond is gonna get enormous. But again, I think cleaning this out is going to help, because this water is no longer going into this pond, it's going to help. Where exactly I'm guessing we're probably gonna have a pond here and a pond here.
Dave, what that's not gonna do though, is and honestly, if this is cleaned out, all it's gonna do is get the water through here quicker. Now we're gonna hit Lake Erie Shores, and I've got the same problem. So when this creek floods, not only is this all flooding and this all flooding, but this is all flooding. So we're trying to fix multiple problems. That's where I'm at. Now, if I legally can't do anything here, well, I'm gonna work to just hold you to whatever has to happen. And I'll work with that. But my intent, and I say my, because I want to speak for Josh and Gabe, we have a bigger problem, and I'm looking at this as an opportunity to make it a win-win situation. I want to help you, we want to help you build your houses and get the most out of return on your value, at the same time trying to fix a problem that exists that we can't address over here because there's an issue over here.
Right, And Chuck, I get what you're saying.
Does Bo still own it or no?
Bo still, well, unless he sold it, I assume he owns it, but he doesn't maintain that basin, no one maintains it.
Develop it or
Well,
no?
the thought was apartments, which obviously
We weren't thrilled with. He owns it, he wanted to put apartments in there, we did not like that idea. And when he tried to put apartments in there, we identified the basin, which belonged to the Pines, that was never maintained because there was no legal requirement.
So that property has the detention for another subdivision?
Yes.
Okay.
Somehow it got involved on his property. I mean, it's
Well,
kind of
It could have
crazy.
been all part of one piece of property.
Probably
and then it
was
got
at some
divided
point,
off at
right.
some point.
Okay.
But we could surely work with the county engineer and stormwater. Like I said, my concern, Chuck, is that
Tri-band.
I don't wanna take this water and put it in
Tri-band.
our pond, okay? There may be some other feature we could add to the property that might help that. But George's pond will just get so enormous because
we have an
it's the
easement.
water
We don't own
quality
anything.
side of it, okay? That scares me.
It's this right here, though.
What about, so has anybody ever, has the Pine, or has the Brooks ever scoped that pipe to make sure? Or you said that hasn't flooded since then, but did they ever put a
it's an
camera
eas-
in
it's an
there to
easement
make
up
sure
here.
this pipe is good under the track?
I don't know what they've done.
Camera in there, but we have taken our
I don't think
sewer
so.
jet into Nautica.
Yeah.
Found where
The-
where an
yeah,
outlet's under
yeah,
the tracks
yeah,
and
yeah,
way
yeah.
of cleaning it,
Clean it.
and it helped, yes.
Oh, good, because when I was building Nautica, and I don't remember who was here at Painesville Township, this was in 2005, that pipe was totally clogged, right? And when that storm of 2005 and this whole
Yeah.
area flooded?
Yeah.
And whoever would, I don't know who I told, somebody at the township, I said, hey, that pipe, no water's coming out of there, right? That was the pipe that went under the track. But you guys
We
jetted
have
that.
sent, yes, yes.
Yeah, because every time, when I was building Nautica, I would see the water, it would fill up here, spill into here, and then this pipe wasn't open. But maybe this isn't an issue. So I think the thing we all gotta try to figure out is over here, right?
Right, because we can't go on to Bo's property. You don't have any legal right to do that today.
Right.
Correct.
Okay. And you have no way to force him to maintain this pond. So we'd have to allow the water to come under the creek, under the street, and go down this creek. But the question is what I'm hearing Chuck say is, he'd like to see some type of a basin or something to hold, or something that when the creek gets to a certain level, there's an area where that water could expand into.
Which is what might be the water.
Right, but I'm just
I realize it's a give and take, and I realize it's gonna cost you something, but you're gonna want something from us, and so we wanna help you. So it's a win-win.
I just don't wanna somehow be where then all of a sudden the Brooks or Nautica, or I'm not Nautica, this would be Lake Erie Shores, is somehow, something that is a problem before, I make it better, but then I don't make it good enough, and then somehow now I'm the one responsible.
Well, we're assuming responsibility for the
Yeah.
regional basin.
Yeah.
And if we have to assume responsibility, it's something that I would support, because you want to put your houses in there, and that shouldn't fall on you. I
So you're
get
talking
that.
like an easement situation like we did?
Yeah, so I'm thinking, do something similar. Let us flip a little, we've got stormwater money, let us flip a little bit of a bill to help the situation. We can't fix the whole thing, and we can't take up all your lots, because you gotta sell them and make money, George, that's what you wanna do. So we don't wanna take a lot of your property. We're looking for some relief. These banks are gonna overflow, and no matter what you do over here, because there's an issue elsewhere, it's gonna come through and you're gonna have issues. That's gonna happen. And so to prevent this guy from getting flooded and all the new development getting flooded, and then streaming this water through here faster to this area, I'm just saying, let's help.
I don't know if we
Somewhere
could,
here.
I don't know if we could do some type
This
of
maybe? I
a,
don't know.
let's call it a regional basin, I don't know what other word to use.
Okay.
But it has to be, in my eyes, if we do anything to fix this creek, it cannot be part of this pond. It has to be separate, because we can't, if we're allowing the water to expand into this regional
A little
basin,
floodplain,
okay,
whatever.
That might work, but we can't route it through our ponds.
No,
can't.
don't
We
want to, you
we
can't. We're good.
But again, let's say we put a pond here, then we could, one of two things, we could either grant an easement to the township or possibly sell them the property for $1.
Something.
So that, I'd like to keep him on, because
Yeah.
again, if you guys own the property,
Then it's
nobody
totally
comes
out of-
back to
right,
him and
right.
says, hey, you own this is on your property, try to fix it.
How about county stormwater?
Well, we gave an
control?
easement, but we gave
Or
an easement on the
somebody.
regional basin.
Just not
I
George.
mean, how, but that's
Yeah.
Who owns the regional basin?
the homeowners association
And they put it,
The Pines?
of the new development, Fairway Meadows.
Yeah, but that,
But we've got the easement to, and all requirements to maintain it. It's strictly on us. Everything is on us.
right, but they're also contributing, their stormwater goes into that.
Yes.
Eventually it will.
So they have a,
Vested
just, yes,
They'll-
versus here, I wanna keep us.
Okay, Dave, I don't really
I
care.
don't-
Whatever
yeah,
works.
yeah,
If that
yeah.
works best for George and that makes everybody happy, I don't care.
One other question, has anyone ever approached this property owner about something there? 'Cause-
Bo Canez?
Yeah, about.
Well, when Bo
improving it?
Canez wanted to develop it, that was where the discussions went.
Yeah.
Is,
Stormwater was involved in that, and Nick from Stormwater went out and did a,
Yeah.
investigation of the pond and listed all of the things that would have to happen in order for him to
Do
bring
you
it up.
do you have that email?
Cause I'm just
or-
saying if there's some stormwater money, why
I
not
can
we
talk
fix
to
up
Nick.
that?
Probably would.
Make
I
it
can
work.
reach out
But
to
he
Nick.
told him,
Cause it's not gonna
you
go
will
away.
not be able to move
It's
forward
so-
until
that-
this
Even
that's-
if I go in there and do.
done. And
Well, so,
they-
I
they-
mean,
You know what I mean?
so here's another
That's just my
thing
thought.
that, I mean, it just kind of muddies the water, but I'm sure he's willing to sell the property for some number. What is that number? Is there any,
free canoe with every guy.
can we do a tip on, could you get a deal with him to buy this property? We do a tip on the whole property to make some stormwater improvements on it, or
Well,
is
let's
there
do this.
something?
I'm gonna do the hydrology, the water study, cause
Okay.
that'll, or though maybe you guys already have one, maybe we should, or no.
I
it's
don't,
never
we
done.
don't have one.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll have Mike Munoz do the study for the 100-year floodplain, right? Cause that'll be good for everybody. And then, Dave does work for Kinez and I know Bo, and I'll have some chit chats with him and see what we can do.
Cause he's kinda done
And
out here
We'll
developing.
we'll sort of plan to do single family, knowing what the concerns are. I'm glad this isn't a concern, cause I don't feel comfortable somehow doing this.
I don't think that's a
You know,
concern.
So that's good. This creek, I understand, right? And so let's do the water study, see what it says. And he's a very renowned water guy, right?
He is.
Floodplain guy, Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll have him do his thing, and we'll see what he says. And I get what you're saying, and, I think we can work it out, right? Don't you think?
Yeah, I think so. Again,
I think so. So I think we got options.
and I mean, and-
We got options.
Okay.
So
it'll be fine.
we did a tip on Fairway Pines property to help pay for the regional basin. If we
Yeah.
have the opportunity to do something similar, to do
Yeah.
something here and
Yeah.
here, to,
We could TIF it.
to bring
It
money.
doesn't
Yeah.
affect you guys, and then
No,
we
no, I
pay
do
for it
tips.
that way.
Yeah, I know tips. I've done
and
it
that,
in Maple City.
if the property across the street, and Bo is willing to allow us to go on his property to clean the pond, let's say, and you guys would want an easement. Because the only, again, if I'm Bo, okay.
What's in it
and-
for me?
Well, no, but, I mean, again, he's getting a pond that's cleaned and fixed and all these other things, okay? But if that area, if he's using that for his density or anything else, if, let's say the township was to acquire it, or George acquired the land for the basin, his gross acreage goes down, his density goes down, that affects the bottom dollar. So, but again, I think we could be very creative to make.
So that's good. I mean,
I mean,
we
there's
talked, so we
options.
know,
Yes,
we know the
yes, yes,
issues,
yeah.
right?
So,
That was pretty much it, right? And you guys are okay with, you understand, like, I guess this is more for fire, but our intent was not to connect roads. We were intending to keep it separate.
so-
What were your thoughts
yeah.
on that?
I absolutely, when I saw this, I absolutely hated, because they were talking about, at one point, making this public. I hated the interconnection of public and private roads. I'd rather just, this ends where it ends, and if you want to do be simple public roads, they're not interconnected here. You get a road coming in, or,
It just creates issue when they're connecting.
Right? Or Dave's got thoughts?
Just so you understand, okay, and I always feel like I'm the downer here, but, okay, this is a condominium, okay, and if we do public streets and so forth, the planning commission now gets involved, okay, and they have block lengths and all these other things, so there may be some, hey, planning commission, we, the township trustees, are okay with this layout, because it's a
Well, you're
benefit.
talking an FPUD here?
It is an FPA.
Well, right, so, I mean, if that's,
But-
at that
but you
point, we have a
still
little
to
bit
go-
more, right,
But you
right.
still have to go through the
Yeah,
planning commission.
kicks it
because
back
if
and gives
it's
us
fee
their
simple and
recommendations.
It's a subdivision,
Right.
not a condominium.
We will work with you.
They give us recommendations, right? The planning commission.
And we
gives us
tend to stick with those unless there's a big deviation from
No,
our plans, you know?
Yes and yes, but no, the problem is that there's certain requirements as far as subdivision regulations, okay? So block length, street length, and various other things that we might have to get variances for to make George's subdivision. Don't, it's two different layers, okay? You guys have the final say-so of what it looks like and so, to some degree, but it has to meet the subdivision regulations. And so, and again, I'm not saying that we can't work through all those things, I think we can. The biggest thing is when we go for those variances, if we had a letter from the
Sure,
township
of
saying,
course.
hey, this plan works, we're okay with this block length being
Right.
300 feet longer than it's supposed to be, or whatever that may be.
As long as you don't, so having said that, I mean, as long as it's reasonable and we're not shoehorning houses in there on top of each other, which is not what you build anyhow.
Right.
So we want a nice development. We want you to make as much money as you possibly can. We just have concerns on our end.
Yeah, and I understand, I think we're on the same page, that's why I
Yeah,
brought
yeah.
Dave, so we know our marching orders, right? And I think the first step is to do that floodplain study on the 100 year.
Yes, and then, like I said.
And if you could buy Bo's property, you'd really be a hero. We would really
Yeah,
help
it's
you.
hard, I mean, I don't, we'll see, but, I mean, there might be a way to work.
Just have them sign it over to us as a tax write-off, and then we'll handle it
There
from
might be
there.
a way to clean it up, is what I'm saying.
It's all good. It's all good.
I'm not sure
Hey,
about
so I gotta ask you one final question, because I don't know. Where is, I keep hearing the Brooks people, because I know all of them, talking to me about their sanitary. Where is, it's on your
So,
property, right?
There's yeah, that, and I'll work that out with them, and we have to work that out with Lake County Utilities, but there's a pump station over here.
Oh, that's where it's at, way over
Sorry
there.
about that, huh?
Somewhere over here that, you know, obviously, we know we have to work through that with the Lake County Utilities. Dave's got some experience doing that on 2 other projects.
Okay.
Yes,
But, I mean, I'm not gonna cut it off, right?
Yeah, right.
you could.
No, I'm not.
Do you have a vision? I mean, you're talking like one street?
I haven't done anything because we wanted to talk to you guys first, right? Because I didn't wanna spend a bunch of money and then have it not
Sure,
be
and
lit.
then knock down.
Just out of curiosity, are you talking like normal size houses, or because it's a tighter area, smaller size houses kind of would attract,
Probably like
older?
ranches.
Are you going for your 1301 house type, or?
No, but
Bigger
like,
than-
it would probably be empty nester type stuff for
Okay.
1,400,
Okay.
1,800
That's
square
good.
feet.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
Most likely.
Nice.
Be a nice little community.
And the only other thing is if they won't let me go public roads for whatever reason, because maybe pump station or something with planning, then we would have to do private streets, you know, and some sort of cluster housing. The goal would be single family.
Okay. Hey, we're here to work with you.
But we understand everything. You got any other questions? And it's gonna be a while, right? Cause it's gonna, that Munoz guy's not fast, right? So, you know, he's doing one in Mentor for me and it takes him forever.
We spoke to Stormwater this morning, right before you guys got here, Tim Miller. Yeah, we spoke to Tim Miller and kind of preempted him for this conversation. You were coming to be aware of it. He wasn't aware of the flooding issues, he said, so now he is. And,
Well, I think they weren't because George Haddon was aware of all that. When Steve Hauser went back to George Haddon's notes, he found it all. So like,
Okay.
that's where that one email comes from.
And again, I don't, you know, it indicates in this email that the county was going to do something.
how old of an email was that? I mean, there's gotta be newer ones since then.
Well, this email just came to me yesterday, was it, or Friday? Okay, but he went back and looked through the notes and stuff.
But I think what he's referring to there is this issue.
My understanding, and if I'm wrong, please educate me, but my understanding is that was closed, because the problem was, is they felt, the Brooks Association felt Bacon Road was flooding their basin, and they wanted that closed, and then we did it, okay.
It was.
We worked with the county to have that done. The county did it, but we worked with the
He
county.
found out this thing, which is the other big issue. So, cause that was the other big issue.
So you were the developer of Nautica, so,
Yeah.
I mean, educate me here, George.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that was allowed. Why was that allowed? Is that just normal?
Well,
It's one development overfeeding another?
I didn't want it either, but they said I had to.
Because when this thing would overflow, your basins overflowed across Lake Road,
But
right?
my basins were designed to overflow across the lake road. So when we did my design, which was with Gary Jones, we knew we had to accept that water, and I was like, I don't want any of that water flooding down my units. So with the county and township at the time, we set that all up so our basins flood Lake Road and go into that creek. And they work, because I've seen it.
Yeah, I've seen it
So
too.
they actually work, and Nautica's never flooded, and, you know, this was weird, trust me, you know, but that's.
It's
how it
something that
was
you were
designed.
stuck with.
It was how it was designed, that pipe was already there.
Oh, okay.
So that pipe went across here and into that creek. We cut it off, detained it, and then, you know, because we had to put our water in there, and so that water, our water, here.
That pipe was there before the Brooks even?
That pipe was there when I started Nautica.
Okay.
I don't know if the Brooks put it underneath there or if it was there before, but
Who
it's
came
an
first?
old clay, like you've
Yeah,
done it, right? It's an
yeah, I
old clay
Just
pipe.
be surprised if the railroad would let that happen.
It was there.
For a
Yeah.
development, it must have been there for a
But,
long time.
like during that real big flood, we accepted all that water and it went over, but this creek went into there.
Nautica
and
was
this went
okay
there.
during all that.
Yeah, we never flooded, but this creek went into here and boosh. You know?
Okay.
But I think if this is fixed and if this pipe is clean, and the only thing is, the Brooks hasn't been maintaining that pond.
I think they could do a much better job maintaining it, but that's on them.
Yeah, I was just there today. They have a lot of work to do.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I'll talk, when I meet with them, I'll
But
mention
they
it.
should, they should be encouraged.
I have encouraged them, Dave. I've met with, when they first started their association, because I'm with Lake Erie Shores Association, I've met with them, and I mean, I've had those conversations with their board, and I don't think it clicked. They didn't even have a reserve study initially. They got a reserve study finally. I mean, they're, you know,
So, because you guys experienced that with Lake Erie Shores where they don't maintain the detentions and then it floods everything.
Lake Erie Shores maintains their basin.
Now they do, but not before.
No, they
Remember that?
did.
Yeah.
They did maintain. The problem we had was the water was coming in from the pines.
Too much.
And it just overwhelmed the system. So the finger pointing went to Lake Erie Shores.
I see.
So that's why the regional basin went in.
Going in.
So what we found out real quick here is the water from Lanark and Sheffield and that other one there, but that was flowing, it's a direct feed into the creek, and so there was no holdback. So with the new regional basin that we're putting in, there, part of the design was a big basin to hold back the pines.
Yeah.
Right, but it doesn't help any.
It doesn't do, it doesn't,
Because it's over there.
so the problem, so in the big storms we had, because the railroad tracks, we did have a little bit of water coming down this way, a little bit. Most of the water went across the railroad tracks of all the stones, but there was some that came this way. But now with what we're hoping is that if we can address this, because this is gonna be taken care of.
Yep.
So, in the interest of time here, because we're running.
We got what we need.
Yeah, one last thing, kind of putting the cart before the horse probably. Public road, typical section, curb and gutter, asphalt centers.
Okay.
No concrete roads.
Okay.
I don't know that we can tell you that, but to make your life easier getting through the process.
Curb, asphalt.
Yeah.
Cancel guys, because they want to.
Well, if it's a PUD, yeah.
It's less expensive, so.
Yeah, just long-term maintenance, it's just concrete
Less expensive,
roads.
so no qualms.
Not gonna argue that.
Yeah.
Twist his arm, right?
Yeah.
All right. All
You're
right.
welcome to stay, but I'm sure you don't want to, so thanks for coming.
We're good. Thanks.
See you
Yeah.
guys. See ya.
Thank you. All right, we have about 20 minutes to get through a lot of
Rest of
stuff.
You guys
So
done?
I guess with that in mind, you can have that if you want,
Okay.
as a copy for you. So I guess we'll try to, still like to get through everything on the agenda, so abbreviate where we can.
So
Mike.
hastily, I report that, we could talk about the CRA, but I sent you the documents I have done so far. I had to divide this into two projects, residential and commercial. I'll just continue to work on it. I'll have more for you at the next meeting. Josh, you asked me to put the sheriff's contract on the agenda, but I don't think we have an update at this moment.
I don't, yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to,
Okay.
I think we need a special meeting, because we gotta discuss this before. We're talking 3 weeks till our next meeting, right?
Yeah.
I think we should some point call us in to discuss that, because it's 3 weeks till our next meeting, and I know the sheriff's looking for,
Perhaps we could combine that with a family fun day meeting?
Yeah.
yeah, we do
Because
both.
we gotta start talking about
Yeah, I
that. So I
get
mean,
you.
we could
Right.
do a special meeting for
Both,
both, okay.
before we leave today, we'll,
Set a date, yeah.
Discharging firearms, that was on the discussion to discuss with the sheriff's office. I forwarded you Jerry's email yesterday afternoon that they're in the process of looking into
Right.
their side of it, so I don't know if there's much to discuss today unless you have something to throw in there, Jerry.
Not yet, but they are talking with our county and local prosecutor, Graham, too, just to see if there is any other actions that we are take other than what's on WRC, and exactly what is entailed with getting an inspection process. Typically, we don't like to give an approval, us as an agency, to say, hey, your backstop is good or your backstop is safe, because the second something goes awry, they're gonna say, well, you said our backstop is safe or good. So, we don't like to take that avenue. If there is something in the ORC that mentions, the natural resources chief or his designee, I don't know if that just, coincides with official ranges, but we're looking into all that and we'll have some answers for you. If you guys have any questions today, I can write them down and then we can look into those as well.
Okay.
Thank you, Jerry. Chuck, in the interest of time, could I put the joining the Visitors Bureau next meeting? Okay. Applying for grants is really a discussion I wanted to have, and I don't think time permits that one today. So that would cover mine, and if we have extra time left over at the end of the work session, I'll be glad to address anything else.
Okay, thank you for being brief. Chief?
I can be brief too.
Okay.
We got
All right.
20 minutes here. so-
Okay.
Well, we can always circle back to things too
Yeah.
if we.
All right.
Circle back.
All right, just to,
Sorry. We can always come back.
We're going to
Okay.
circle back. I would circle back on that.
all right, just to start out with the vaccines, you know, they started those megapods and then they were doing 6,000 at every one of those. The last one they had at Lakeland, they got 1,300 people sign up for it. So it appears that we're kind of at the saturation of what they thought they could give. I know we're way ahead of, county-wise, we're way ahead of the state levels of what, you know, for percentages. In fact, I think we're just over 40% of everybody in the county has a vaccine, and I think it's over 60 years old, it's 75% of the people have it. So we're,
What point does herd immunity kick in?
I have no
I don't
idea.
think I don't think we're getting
Yeah.
there.
I don't know. With that and the people that have already had it, I don't know exactly where that, but I do know that we're getting pretty saturated with the vaccine. So now they're going back to the smaller pods. So it's changing, you know, every week. Next week, when we have a meeting, I'm sure it'll be completely different, but that's what we're looking at, is smaller ones. Again, more focused and have them, they're looking at people's, you know, workplaces and things like that, doing them. So this may be tapering off, hopefully, or at least as far as the vaccine goes. Let's see, we have an active shooter drill. It's June 15th, 16th, and 17th. It's the same type that we do every year with the combination with several police departments, sheriff's department, and most of the county fire departments. The difference is this year it's at Riverside, so we're
You know, like the teachers and stuff?
yes,
Okay, good.
yeah.
That's what I
So
was gonna ask.
so yeah, it's going to be a large drill, and I know this year they've actually got a group of there's an actual group of people that moulage themselves and dress up for, you know, as accident victims, and they're bringing that group in so we're going to have real live looking victims in the schools too. So it's going to be a much more lifelike exercise, and it's going to be, like I say, every one of our guys will be going one of those 3 days, 15th, 16th, and 17th.
Wow, it's impressive.
Right, and
The
then
whole
we
department.
the whole department will go, because generally we rotate our guys on duty through the, you know, take one of the stations and they go over there for the drill.
Very nice.
So, and we do have one guy, Zach Slaypack, is one of the instructors for it this year too. That's the guy that said he wanted to be on a SWAT team. So we said, okay, well, here's a good start for you. Go learn what these guys about. And so he's one of the instructors for that. Friday, and then you guys probably, I don't know if this was in the newspaper or not. And it doesn't mean that much to us at this point, but Tri-Point and West, or Lake Hospitals, officially became UH. So we're going to be changing protocols and medical direction and things like that, but that's all down the road. But
What does that mean, medical direction?
well, right now, we have a book of things that we're allowed to do on the squad that's supplied by our medical control, which is Lake Hospitals. Now, UH will come in, when they completely take over, they have other things that they think are, you know, better standards, so the book will change, that's all. So we'll have different rules to follow as far as, you know, being in the back of a squad.
Do you think you'll have less requests for alternate
drop offs when you do ambulance runs now that it's UH?
That's possibly, yeah, possible. Yeah, we do get a lot of that. People that I don't want to go to Tri-Point, take me somewhere else, you know,
Right.
so, okay. And then I like the ones that say, take me to West, because that's
Yeah.
better. Yeah, it's way better. It's the same doctors at both hospitals, but, you know. Anyways,
Do we go, out of curiosity, do we go to Hillcrest?
we do occasionally. We do for traumas, for sure, depending on the trauma. But, you know, we either fly them or drive them to Hillcrest.
West is more for the cardiac, right?
West is more for cardiac. Almost most of the time we go to West is for cardiac. Sometimes we go to Hillcrest for peds too, because they have a peds ER.
What's that?
Pediatrics, I'm sorry. Yeah,
That's where you go for your kids. It's the-
right. Because they do have a pediatric ER. There or Rainbow, but you know, because Rainbow is a pediatric trauma center.
Right.
Every
ICU,
hospital's got
right.
different specialties, but there is a pediatric ER at Hillcrest. So yeah, we go there.
So let me ask a question, might not be your area, but out of curiosity, do we expect, like, changes with UH taking over, significant changes, or what kind of changes could be expected?
They told us, I had a meeting with them on Friday, with a couple of people from UH that are going to be doing the changeover at a virtual meeting with them. And they said that one of the things they're looking at is making Lake West into a trauma center. So, and I know our question was, well, how about Tri-Point? Because I think Tri-Point, I mean, West and Hillcrest are both trauma centers, so I think Tri-Point would be better because it's, you know, service this area, but at least there'll be a closer place to do traumas. And I know UH has a, you know, pretty good stroke team and things like that. So I'm sure there'll be a lot more changes than that, but that's the one I know that they told us there'd be a trauma center.
Okay.
All right, the last thing I just want to bring up is just that I did send you guys a breakdown of what it would cost to have a person on the SWAT team. I sent it's on the shared drive, and I sent it to your email for you guys to look at, and I'll let you guys, you know, take your time to look at that and what it costs. And I'll look at my budget too and figure out where that would come from, and I'll reserve the right to bring that up at another meeting. Okay.
Thank you very much, Jim.
All right.
Appreciate you doing that.
Would you be able to put together a number for our next discussion? Put together a number for Gordon and Theo, their time, what that cost is per year?
I will try.
Okay.
That's a little more elusive in that, because it's, but yes, I will look at last year and give you a
Okay.
number. Okay.
Thank you. Bill?
The next step in the pole building process for the road department, we had to get permit-ready plans drawn because of the size of the building. I reached out first to a large architectural firm, and before they got too far into the process, they called and said, if we continue it from this point on, you're gonna be looking around $14,000 for what we have to do. So they gave us, there was no charge up to that point, and I said, thank you, we don't wanna do that. Reached out to a smaller company, just a couple of guys that have an architectural firm. They came in at $42.25 for permit-ready plans for this. I would like to go ahead and have them prepare those plans, but with the cost of materials being so high now, I don't know if this is a project we're going to pursue this year. I spoke to the architect yesterday. As long as there are no changes in the county building codes, what he prepares will still be good a year from now. We could still use those. But I can tell you that a 4x4 post that we used to buy, treated posts to build mailboxes we were paying $12 for, is now $26. And that's for a 4x4 post. So once this is done, I'll reach back out to the original contractor that gave us a price and see, can you still build the shell for what we're looking at?
Yeah, my thought is, it makes sense to move forward with that smaller architect, get the drawings ready to go. You even if for some reason we don't move forward this year, I would think the cost to update them next year would be minimal. That's my thought, that we move forward. I don't know if we need a resolution, probably don't, for that price to,
And if it's over $3,000, we do.
do we need to
And,
get,
and
do we need to get that
I
on
did not,
today?
I did not put that on the resolution because I didn't want to put it on there and then have you decide not to go forward and then we're amending things. So it can be on the next meeting.
Okay,
I'm good with that.
Okay.
And then, from that point on, I'll reach out to the contractor again and see where he thinks the cost of materials are, because that's, I mean, they're high for everything. So, that's all I have. We had our new employees start yesterday, and, maybe at the next meeting, next day meeting, I'll bring them in and you can all meet them, and we'll
Awesome.
go from there.
good,
Thank you, Mr. Thompson.
thank you.
And just so nobody gets nervous, we'll be ready if it snows.
When it snows.
Bite your tongue.
Plenty of salt.
When it snows. All right, zoning.
All I have is the zoning commission case for text amendment 21ZC01 that the trustees will be receiving today. The amendment is in regards to the line of sight safety triangle that was discussed previously when we were talking about 6-foot fences in the side yards of corner lots. We worked on this a lot. We had some good feedback from the Lake County Planning Commission. We incorporated their feedback. We left some of it. One of their suggestions was increasing the size of the safety triangle to a 100-foot by 100-foot measurement where streets are meeting, and ultimately it was decided that just wasn't our goal, based on conversation with the trustees previously and the zoning commission. Included is also a definition and requirements for a vehicular entry gate. That was requested by our fire chief. He's having difficulty, our firemen are having difficulty accessing a gated community, what is that, North Shores?
No,
Across-
probably Villa Grande.
Villa Grande, yeah, thank you. So Villa Grande across from Lake Erie Shores, they've got a gated community, and some of the vehicles are having difficulty making it in without potentially damaging. We didn't have any requirements for aisle width or anything to be maintained with gates across drives, and now we do, with this amendment.
Because of the gates in the place now, the gates taking up place that the vehicle was able to transverse before, is that, am I understanding it? So the problem now is that because the gate's there, the vehicles can't get through because due to the size of the trucks?
Right, right. And
What about what if there's a big fire? Can they get the big fire truck in there?
They can, but we actually have to go in through the exit and.
Because of the angle of it.
Because of the angle of it, and, they have that island there. So, I mean, it would probably be way easier without the island, but the way it is, especially our ladder truck, it has guys have to get out of the truck, watch it come through and direct them through, because it's really inches on both sides, because the way it opens up, yeah.
So, I mean, is that something that we should advise that homeowners association of, that, look, what you've built is creating restrictions and slower response time
Right.
for your community, your residents there, that you may want to make some adjustments.
Yeah, I think I was going to meet with the homeowners association, but I haven't done that yet. but
Okay.
I will, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, because I know exactly what you're talking about. And first thing I thought was the big fire truck coming through there. You have to come the other way, do the angle of it,
Right.
and
We
you
have
just
to go
confirm
in
that.
through the exit, and
It's a tiny street,
it is a
narrow.
tiny street, yeah. And if we did have a big fire, we'd have several fire trucks coming through there, so probably at that point, though, I mean, there's a way to fix it. We'd have to damage the gate, but I think if we had a fire, we would. We just disable it and open it. It opens up to like probably a foot, but if we cut the chain, we can push the other foot open and have more room to get in, so, I mean, and which we would do it.
So out of curiosity, if that were to happen, who's responsible for fixing what you undid. Do we have to fix it, or is that on them
No, they-
because it's?
No, they have to fix it.
Probably their homeowner's insurance,
Right,
you
yeah.
assume, right? Like, I don't know.
Usually the insurance company of the house that burnt will end up covering whatever damage we have to do to get there and put the
Okay.
fire out.
Okay. Thanks, Chief.
Thanks.
The squad can get through there?
It can.
Same thing, exit?
Guys don't have to get out, but guys do have to be careful. And if you look at our squad right now at Station 3, there is a mark right up the side because they weren't. So, but yeah, they do know that they need to watch the mirrors when they go through. But
And if that center island wasn't in there, then it would be,
it'd be no problem. They could go straight in and not be at an angle. That's the problem. They have to be at some, an angle to go in.
that wasn't a problem until they put the gate up though, right?
Right.
Correct?
Correct. And it wouldn't be a problem, just like what we addressed and other communities have, is a setback. If it was set far enough away from the road where you didn't have to turn and hit a gate, if you pulled in and the gate was in front of you, your truck was completely on the side. And my issue too was a place like Watermark over here where, if they decided to gate that, you'd be on Menor Avenue sticking out trying to get in. So, we're just trying to avoid those kind of situations.
So that's what you're addressing through the zoning definition?
Yes.
For future ones, not
Yes,
existing. But
they're-
yeah, I think a discussion with them of,
If there's some
They should
way
be,
we can move
they
the
should be
post back.
responsible for fixing the damage of the trucks. I mean, if our trucks are getting scratched because they put that in too tight, we shouldn't have to flip that bill.
No. Well, we didn't have any restrictions on how to put it in, and it is out of the right of way, so it's off the road. I don't know if it's out of the right of way, I'm guessing it's not off the right of way because it's sticking up right to the edge of the road, so.
I mean, is this something that, text-wise, we need to make sure that just for pure public safety, we say you can't,
If you're the guy having a heart attack in there and you gotta
That's
wait
what
for
I'm
the
saying.
squad to pull in, it's like, get your butt in there. Now my vehicle's damaged, I don't wanna pay for it, we're saving your life. And they're the ones who created it.
Right. And like I said, I will have a meeting. That's the only one, that's the one place that we have, and I will talk to them.
Okay,
Okay.
all right,
All
good
right.
enough. We won't delay Harley any further.
yeah,
Thanks,
we got about
Harley.
5 minutes left, so.
Chief.
That is all that I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and we've
Very well.
talked about Tanner's Farm already, so we're good there, I think.
Yes.
Okay, and then Rich, miscellaneous barn concept discussions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just thought I'd give everybody a heads up on this. I've had contact with the new owner of the property. He's allowing Mr. Welch, who he purchased the property from, to continue his miscellaneous barn business in the large building. He is planning to split off a piece of the property into its own parcel. Well, it's already a parcel, but he's going to do a lot line adjustment for the residential house on the property. Behind the house, there's a large building with some open land behind it. And what he's eventually going to do is he's going to start with 5 commercial self-storage unit buildings on that vacant property, and then probably convert all the non-residential property over time to a self-storage concept. So that's it's fitting in that area, and it's something to look at. I don't know how the miscellaneous barn has stayed in business, but I guess they've been able to survive, and Mr. Welch successfully sold the property, and he'll be able to continue his business for another couple to several years. And that's pretty much it, guys.
So, was there there's a residential property there?
There is a house on the property. That was the one that was being looked at by Lake Geauga Rehab
Recovery,
Services. What was her name? And anyhow,
So they're gonna continue the residential property, or are they thinking long term of trying to get that converted and do more storage units, or?
well, it's a residence, and the new owner believes he can fix the property, fix the house up, and have somebody rent it. It'll be a rental property.
Okay.
It's actually listed for rent right now.
Okay. Well, I guess if he creates noise problems with storage units, it's his rental property to then deal with. So, okay.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
real quick, I saw the property next to Wendy's sold. Where was that discussion with that facility and what they were proposing there?
That is going to be the medical clinic, outpatient clinic for addictions. Kelly Covert. Well, I think she got married somewhere along the line. That may not be her last name now. She has until possibly the middle of May to close out her business and prepare to vacate the premises. I think title's going to transfer officially then. The permit has already been issued for the incoming tenant. So that'll be happening over the next couple of months.
But they didn't get any waivers or anything on parking requirements or parking in the right of way, correct?
They're not going to be parking in the right of way. They demonstrated there's enough parking spaces between the two parcels that are being purchased together. And there's an agreement in place that they cannot occupy the second building, which used to be the old city loan building, until they expand the parking lot behind that building by adding new parking and a parking lot expansion. So between the two parcels, there will be enough parking available to satisfy the requirement for the incoming business, but no other business can be added after that without expanding the parking lot.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? If not, we will close the work. I guess we'll end the work session, and we'll start the public meeting here shortly. So if you want to end the live stream, you can go ahead and do that.